Starting a dispensary is tough. How much should you initially invest in your inventory? What should you stock? How do you train your staff to sell more? Ameel joins us today to talk about all things inventory. He started his cannabis career in 2016, helping drive the inventory operations of Tokyo Smoke, who later became one of the largest cannabis retailers in the world. Since leaving Tokyo Smoke, Ameel has helped countless dispensaries launch their retail operations. If you are just starting your dispensary today and have questions surrounding your inventory strategy, this pod's for you.
Welcome to the KayaCast, the podcast for cannabis businesses looking to launch, grow, and scale their operations. Each week, we bring you interviews with industry experts and successful retailers, plus practical tips and strategies to help you succeed in the fast-growing cannabis industry.
All right, Ameel, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
From a product planning perspective, how do new retailers, what should their thought process be in determining how much to spend in their opening product?
I guess the starting point with any retailer is what's your customer journey, right? And the footprint of your store, how are you laid out? How are you going to get guests to experience that store? And then within that, what are the different touch points for products? How much room do you have to merchandise? How are you going to merchandise? So taking all of those into account, when you look at your spend, it's interesting. So the actual amount, I would say, would differ on your market, and it depends on exactly where you are. But I would say I would take 60% of your budget that you have for inventory and put that towards what you want to open your store with. So if you've allocated $100,000 for your cannabis inventory, or let's separate accessories out of that a little bit. You have your accessories budget as well. Your accessories budget could be closer to 80% when you open. You want to have that. You can have that fully stocked. But with cannabis, opening with about 60%, so you can also see what's selling, what's not, and to not over-index in anything, but then give you the space to just replenish without perhaps even before you've sold through on things, and have that leeway. And I would say typically in the first, so if you open with 60%, by about 6 weeks in, you want to have 100% of that budget in your store and being used.
Oh, wow. So within 6 weeks, you should have identified what your product mix should be.
I think you should start identifying it, but you're also starting to see that inventory turn. And then that inventory, that money you have there is that, and the cash flow, that's going to keep going and being reinvested into your inventory. So yeah, I would say within 6 to 8 weeks, you're starting to see that.
How should a new retailer determine which cannabis brands to carry?
Yeah, it's really interesting. So, if you're in an emerging market, and there's not a whole lot of market data that's out there, maybe you can see what is doing well in other stores. Maybe you have a bit of a competitive landscape. But if not, I would say over just choosing the brand, it's making sure you have that product mix well identified and well stocked, right? That you have a good, better, and best mix. Do you have brands that hit all those points within your store and within all the different product types and formats? So in flower, for example, what do you have available to you? Is it 1 gram, 2 gram, 3.5, 7, 14, 28s? Are there other formats in your market? Are there there's some markets that have the larger 8s, the 4.2s. There's some that have a 5, some that have a 10, right? In some markets, in pre-rolls, there's, we've seen up to 80 different size formats, right? A 1 by half gram, a 1 by 1 gram, a 2 by 1 gram, a 3 by 1 gram, a 4 by 1 gram. Now, you don't need all of those, and especially you don't need all of those when you open, but do you have something for everyone? So if we look at flower, do you have a good mix of 8s, of 3.5 grams, and do you have that at a value price point? Do you have it in a mid and a better price point? And do you have some true top shelf at a best price point? And I would extend that to every piece of your mix. Some of the larger formats, for example, like a 14 gram or 28, maybe you don't go as deep off the start. And again, we're saying that 60% because those could be larger investments. They're commitments, again, into brands and products that you might not know as well. But finding then the brands that match that and saying, okay, great, this is a brand that has an organic top shelf offering, or they have unique genetics, or they have a true craft offering, or this is a really good value, bang for your buck, and we can layer it into all these points. So rather than necessarily focusing on the brands, it's can they fit into my mix and that whole customer experience.
You know, when somebody is navigating stocking traditional product versus innovative products, how much should somebody prioritize the novelty or the uniqueness of products like lube, gum, etc.?
Yeah, I think it's nice to have a range of everything. So if you're looking at your whole product mix, you obviously want to prioritize what's going to be your larger sales drivers. You want to prioritize your dried flower, your pre-rolls, your vapes if you're able to have them, edibles, things like gums, things like, you know, more unique topicals like lubes. They might account for 1, 2, or 3% of your sales, if that. And I think you want to take the same approach when you're looking at then how they occupy your SKU mix and your inventory dollars. So if you have 200 SKUs you're opening with, should probably not take up more than 5 to 10 of those, right? And finding that, you know, a big part is also trying them, and, you know, you will rotate through those products. But I would say as a rule of thumb, if there's a unique offering that's available in your market, having at least one is really beneficial. And especially if you're in a new and emerging market, where maybe there's not a lot of stores, maybe there were some gray market retailers, but you could potentially be someone's first experience in a legalized and licensed store in your market, to show them that there are, like you had said, you know, there's lube offerings, there's gums, there's suppositories, there's teas, there's some of these that might not be the first thing you think of when you think of cannabis products, but that we do have a market for them.
You mentioned something that I think our listeners would love to hear your thoughts on is how many SKUs should somebody open with?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think in the life cycle of your store, you know, and let's say year 1 to year 5, because this is the other thing too. When you're opening a retail store, you're not opening, it's not a pop-up, right? You're opening, you've got a lease, you've probably got a 5-year lease, maybe a 10-year lease. So you're looking at 5 to 10 years of that business. The opening mix that you have in year 1, I think within the first few years, the SKU count will double. It might even triple. And then it will hit a plateau, at which point you might be able to maintain that, or you will start to wind it down. So again, a hard, fast number is tough. I think for a new store opening up, 150 to 200 SKUs is great. And again, when we mentioned the customer journey and how you're planning, if you have 150 to 200 SKUs, do you have the space and do you have the merchandising capabilities to go from 200 to 500? And then what happens if you want to go from 500 and really bring it back down to 300, right? And again, depends on your market, depends on what's out there. But what we're finding is stores that have a lot of success have the ability to expand. They have the ability to take on more products, because even though you might be able to tailor it in and there might be some products that are the most popular in any market, customers, and especially customers who have less familiarity with cannabis, maybe not the kind of connoisseurs, people who are coming in, they might be more kind of casual smokers that are looking for something not as frequently. If they find a product that they like, they might want to stick with that. And that product might cycle through. It might not be the most popular thing, but then they might be looking for who has that. So in a future state of going from that 200 up to that 500 or 600, you might be at that point just to be keeping some unique products that you might keep for 2 customers. And we have a lot of stores that will do that, where you get to a place where you have a very reliable customer base and you have people you see once a week, once every 2 weeks, and they might not always be buying the highest volume SKUs, but you keep some things in store just for them.
Sid, so knowing that, in general, how often should you turn over your inventory? What's healthy?
Yeah, I think, so there's 2 ways we look at it. In a year, you probably want to turn over your inventory about 20 times. Okay. But I think a better way for you to manage it and plan for your sales potential and your sales growth is, do you have 1 to 1.5 months of inventory on hand? A big factor to that is also, what does your supplier network look like? How often are you receiving products? What's your ability to restock? Are you restocking weekly? Is it bi-weekly? Is it monthly? But but having that 1 to 1.5 months of inventory, so it allows you to have that larger SKU count if, as you get up to that point. Again, maybe it's not the first thing you do, and the first thing, it's tough to plan for that. What does a month of sales look like? Right? You really don't know until you might have your projections, but having that plan to say, okay, if I have, and once your business starts rolling, can I plan 4 to 6 weeks of inventory on hand? So I know I always have a deep selection of products. I have enough units of every one of these products. So again, if I'm the only store with this product, I might have customers who come in and buy me out, or they might buy as much as they can. And can we maximize that rather than saying, oh, sorry, we only have 2 units left, and turning someone away?
How should somebody assess if they have a healthy product mix?
Oh, that's a great question. Again, I think it comes down to the customer journey and walking through it with a whole bunch of different customers in mind, right? So is there something, if you have someone who's a connoisseur or a legacy customer, do you have products for them? And there's different types of legacy customers. There's legacy customers who go through a lot of things, and there's legacy customers who maybe are quite a bit older and want lower THC or hash products. And then some who just want the highest THC or the best quality product. Do you have products for seniors? Do you have products for, do you have good non-smokables? So in each of these categories, looking at good, better, best, and then saying, okay, if I came in with this friend who smokes a joint once a month, what is a product that I can find for them that meets their needs that they would like? Okay, but then can I also find a product for myself? And then do I have that customers' needs met in, indica, sativa, and hybrid offerings? Do I have that customers' needs met in different taste profiles or different potencies? And then when you look at edibles, different size formats and different just variety of, whether it's 2 packs, 5 packs, 10 packs of gummies, chocolates, whatever the thing might be. But the best way is to kind of tie it back to that customer and say, if someone's a tourist, one thing that we hear a lot is some of the things you hear the most in a dispensary: what's your highest THC for your lowest price? Right? That's a question, no matter where you are, that you get. Another question you might get, depending on your market, is what's the best product you have, right? Or, what's a good value product? And now the highest THC and the best product aren't always the same. And it's good to have high THC products or, products that are going to meet a customer need there. But then if you have someone coming for best, it's good to have true quality best. And I think a big thing in some of these emerging markets is also you might get tourists coming in who are coming from market or places where they don't have a cannabis, regulated cannabis. They don't have a licensed and legal infrastructure, and they're coming to try new products, and they might be willing to spend, and they are coming to see, what's the best that they can get. So again, it's wide ranging, and it's knowing your customer base more than anything. If you're in a smaller community, right, you might have less of that. You might have more reliability of, okay, I know my customers. I know my customers are value shoppers. I know they are shoppers who value organic, right? They value craft. So I think also, neighborhood demographics and how you tailor that is important, but also understanding that the cannabis customer might differ from the general neighborhood demographics that exist. There will be overlap, and in some markets you will see that. Maybe more affluent neighborhoods have people are willing to spend a little bit more, or they're buying a little bit more in each purchase. But again, you have people across every piece of kind of the social economic scale, and do you have something that can meet their needs, that they walk in and they could get a $5 joint, or they can get a $200, $250 ounce.
What are some best practices for pricing?
Yeah, again, with pricing, it's important to look at, where you are in your market and, what are the expectations and the perceived value of products. Because I think that's one of the biggest things. Now, for your store, I think you're obviously looking to optimize your gross margin. Your gross profit, how you can optimize your bottom line, is one of the most important things to you. But then understanding what is value to my customers, right? Do they expect to pay $10 a gram? Do they expect to pay less than that? And then do I have, as I was saying, products at all those price points where I can still hit my gross margin target? Because I think that's a really important thing. And one of the things that we work with retailers on is saying, okay, we're here, we want to do a $5 joint. We want to have, $100 ounce. Well, unless you can if you got that $5 joint for $4.50, it's not going to make sense for you to be selling that, right? Can you find a supplier? Can you find someone who's selling that to you at $2 or $3? So you still have a profit margin there that this is going to be sustainable for you. And then working with that to say, okay, I'm meeting my customers' needs, but I'm also hitting my margin targets.
Is there a strategy to have loss leaders?
Yeah, definitely. I think loss leaders are great to bring new customers in your door and to also add on to a purchase. So speaking to that customer journey again, someone's going through, I go into a store and I'm buying a quarter, I got 7 grams of something. Is there a loss leader that, I have a good relationship with the supplier, and so I'm not making as much of a gross margin on there, but we're looking to expand their market share, right? And then when you look at loss leaders that can bring people in the door, again, like the discount, a single joint that someone can come in and buy at a really affordable price. And then we find ounces are a big one that people use as a loss leader. So relative to the flour mix that they have, ounces might get about 10% lower in terms of gross margin. So if you're getting, say, 40% on your flour, you might be getting 20 to 30 on your ounces. You're taking a little bit less because your gross profit per unit is high, and you can use that to showcase a really good dollar per gram and get people a deal there.
Ameel, you mentioned, and you probably have done a lot of work profiling customers. Where should a new retailer start and understand, okay, how do I profile my customer, and how does this impact my inventory strategy?
Yeah, I think obviously looking at your neighborhood and looking at also how your store is positioned, right? Who are you looking to attract? And knowing that they will be part of your customer base, but then you're also going to hit the wider range of customers, right? You're going to have people who are, maybe just turned 21. They're in a kind of a younger demographic, but they're likely also pretty high volume consumers. You're going to have seniors, people coming in looking more for CBD, topicals, non-smokables, right? You're going to have a connoisseur. And how do you find that customer? One of the things that I hear sometimes from stores is, oh, we're a pre-roll store, or we're a vape store, an edible store. Like, we get a lot of customers for that. And sure, that might be something that you're doing a lot of volume in today, but it might also just mean you're underserving those other key parts of your mix that are out there, right? Like I was saying, there is a casual customer. There's the high volume customers, the people who know a lot about genetics and products. There's the people who just, want something that tastes good and is going to help them chill out. And you want to make sure that you have something for everyone and not just say, oh, we're focused on the connoisseur. This is where you come to get the best of the best. Because why do you want someone walking past your store and turning you down because they can't understand the language, or it's not positioned for that? And similarly on the other side, if you lean so heavily into potentially CBD and wellness, are you alienating, a high volume ounce customer who just assumes that you won't have a good mix of those products, right? And we've seen stores that can do a great job of hitting all of those needs. So no matter who you are, you feel comfortable coming in, right? What we're doing in a lot of these emerging markets is trying to reduce the stigma. And part of that means the stores are normalized, they're approachable, you feel comfortable, like you feel, maybe walking into an Apple store, that it's bright, it's here where I can learn about things, there's people I can ask questions to, right? Gatekeeping in these stores is not going to help you, but making it accessible and letting people know that, we have, even if it's like we're talking about the novelty items, the unique SKUs, even if it's 1 or 2 SKUs, having one item allows you to talk about that and show someone a new way that cannabis can be used.
How many customer profiles should you start with? Like, what's a typical starting point for a retailer?
Starting point with a retailer, I would say you would start with, again, someone who's new to cannabis. So perhaps they've smoked a joint once or twice. not too much experience. They could be coming in looking a bit more medically or something that's for like a lower THC, something that's a little more approachable. Someone who's a casual kind of smoker, maybe they've had an edible, they smoke a joint with friends every once in a while. Maybe they don't really buy weed, but they've been given it from friends. Maybe they own a pipe, right? The first customer probably has nothing. They're like, okay, you know what? I want to try some edibles. I want to try something. Second one might have a little bit, maybe they've bought some weed before, maybe not. A connoisseur or an experienced customer. And then that connoisseur, like I was saying, can be broken down. You can have the people who, have been smoking for years. They know what's up. They know different types of products. There's also connoisseurs there's some that know a lot about genetics, that know they know how to identify craft, and there's some that just know good weed, right? And that's what they like. They like pinks with a nice taste, right? But people who are coming in high volume, looking for quality, and can determine what good weed is. You want to understand your older demographic. So again, seniors, but then also new parents, people who might be looking to enjoy cannabis, but maybe are moving away from smoking. They're looking at beverages, they're looking at edibles, things that are a bit more discreet. And then again, with seniors, a bit more of a wellness focus. So I would say that's about 5 key types of customers there. The new to cannabis, to someone casual, a little bit of experience, the connoisseurs, the kind of middle-aged demographic, maybe new parents, and then seniors. All of them do make up a different piece of your sales mix, but it's also relative to the demographics of your areas. We have some stores that are in areas where there's a lot of seniors, and it'll surprise you as well, the amount of seniors who still like smoking, and who will come in. They might not buy ounces, but they might buy hash, right? Or they'll come in and they will buy topicals, but yeah, they'll buy beverages with those topicals as well. So that piece really does depend on your neighborhood demographics, but knowing that the beauty of the legalized industry and what we're trying to do is make the store approachable for all of those people, because even if they make up 5% of your sales, that's still 5% you really don't want to be turning away.
If a dispensary has gray market stores close by, what do they do to remain competitive?
Yeah, I think education is really important there. So when we talk, we're looking at inventory planning, understanding, again, the offerings that you have and also the safety that comes in with all of those products, right? In a gray market store, it's not going through the same testing and quality control as in the licensed stores and the legalized market. So understanding where they're at, what their product mix is, but then also how we can offer a better experience. And where we see in almost every legalized market, there's still an illicit and a legacy market that exists, but it dwindles year by year. And again, one of the things that people value is the approachability of these licensed stores. So understanding that, okay, there might be these gray market stores, but we're going to do it a bit better. We're going to lead with education. We're going to have our customers better understand our products and also know that when they come and get something from us, again, because of the brands we stock or the specific products, they can hopefully come back again in 2 or 3 weeks and they can get the same product. And it's going to be the same, potency differs when you talk about flower and stuff like that, but the same quality for that specific SKU. And when you look at edibles, that there's a guarantee around the potency, because that's one of the biggest things. You hear people going to gray market stores and they get edibles with all kinds of potency, and more often than not, they're not as strong as they claim to be, and they don't have the same guarantees to them. Another thing is you sometimes hear people getting vapes from some of these unregulated stores, and that was such a big issue over the last few years, right? But if you're coming into a licensed store that is selling cannabis vapes, 510s, all-in-ones, there is more regulation and more safety that goes into the making of those products.
Are there any considerations retailers should have if they're in an existing market versus an emerging market or surrounding inventory?
Yeah, I think if you're opening up in a market that has existed for a few years, right, there's a lot of information that you can use to help understand what what do sales look like in that market, and what are my competitors doing, right? It's a great place to start. A great thing that we do with stores is understanding what's out there. What are some of the top products in your market, and are the neighborhood stores carrying them? Okay, understanding from people who are out there what's going on. It helps you get a good frame of reference. It'll help you with your pricing. It'll help you with your inventory planning. I don't think you should do anything different when it comes to your initial mix. I don't think you should do anything different when it comes to your initial SKU mix. You want to hit good, better, best. You want to make sure that you have things at every one of those price points, and you want to give yourself the ability to expand, to go from that initial 150 to 200 up to 300 SKUs, potentially even push that a little higher. Maybe it comes down, but give yourself room to grow. I think the difference in a new market is there's a lot more uncertainty, and there's a lot more that will take time, and you're managing and understanding how products are changing, how your sales cycle are changing, where our customers' preference is going, which you can get some of that in existing markets. But again, it also just depends on how you're positioning your store. So if you look at most markets, I would say that dried flower would account for about 30 to 40%, pre-rolls about 30 to 40%, right? If you have vapes available to you, it's about 20%, and this is of sales. And then edibles, that would include beverages, would be anywhere from about 10 to 15%. And then you have capsules, oils, topicals, that can all make up 2 or 3%, and your concentrates as well, your hashes, your shatters, your everything that encompasses. But then are there new formats coming out? So we talked about novelty items, but what does innovation look like? And do you have room for that? And will that be a big place that customers are going to? So in one market where you might see customer sales really focused on dried flower, there might be another market where infused pre-rolls have become the new hot thing, and all of a sudden it's meant that your pre-roll category has expanded dramatically because that's what customers are coming in looking for.
It's ever changing, and it's so dynamic. Like you kind of have to be.
It really is, and you want to be on top of it. You want to understand what's going on. So if I look at a typical store that has 300 or 400 products at any one time, so say you carry 400 SKUs, and that's what you stock towards. If I look at 12 months of your store, you might sell 1,000 different cannabis items. So 100 of those might be always in stock, and these are the top products you can't change out of. But other ones might change based on new genetics, things that are the suppliers are trying to move, right? I might keep 5 products from this one brand, but the 5 products they might have might differ. And so you want to make sure that like you were saying, when you're aligning yourself to brands, you're understanding what can they offer me, and my customers. Do they have a wide range of products and price points? Are they going to have this product in market for the foreseeable future? So I know I can get this from you, and we can consistently get this. So when we talk to people about it, it's not going anywhere. And I think with flower, and again, with the connoisseur customer, maybe less of an issue. Although if they like something good, they might want to keep it. But when you look at, again, the seniors or the people who are new to cannabis, if I spent all this time educating you on a specific topical, a specific CBD product, maybe a lower THC, or like a really product that you're going to feel comfortable with, and then all of a sudden a month later it's gone and I can't get it back, you have to start that all over again, and you're starting with it. And especially that older demographic, you want to make sure that you have a core mix of products there. Again, from day one, some of that will change, but understanding, okay, these are topicals we feel good about. These are some capsules, some oils we feel really good about. Maybe we add 1 or 2 in, maybe unique cannabinoids, things like that, switch things out. But otherwise, it's the same offering. And that's what we've seen a lot of stores in those categories. They might have the same SKUs, if they're available to them, that they had for the last 3 years, because people come in and they know that this does what they need it to do.
When something isn't selling or isn't turning over fast. And how does somebody assess? Is that an internal training problem? Is that a display problem, or is it an actual market? That's the market telling you that, hey, we don't want this.
It's really interesting. I think more often than not, it is an internal problem than the market problem. So if something's not selling or it's not turning over, sometimes the product itself just missed, but you'll be able to identify that pretty easily. But the biggest thing we find, like when it comes down to products that are slow moving in your store, you don't always have to jump to discount them, right? You don't have to clear them out. You just have to talk to your team about them and even let them know, hey, we have this, we've had this for 3 months. We wanted to get it out this week. Keep these top of mind. And that is the best tool you can have, is just updating your team and saying, hey, someone's coming in looking for like some indica flower, lead with this one. People coming into stores, they trust your recommendation, they trust your product. Maybe it just got lost in the mix of things, but we want to sell through it. We want to reinvest those dollars. And I think letting your team know that, so regardless of where it's merchandise, regardless of where you have it, when it comes to the conversation, if they're going to lead with it, you will probably sell through that whole product within 5 days. It's something that,
And then,
yeah.
No, but how does this impact your future restock?
Oh yeah, because then you see all of a sudden, wow, that sold really well. Again, it's somewhere where you have to have a good understanding of both your product and your numbers. So you're looking at your numbers and you're saying, okay, this sold at a really good velocity. But when we look at it, and if you're looking at it over, say, 2 months, so how did it sell in 60 days, 30 days, maybe 2 weeks, and 1 week? So like you're saying, oh, we sold a ton of it in the last week. We sold 6 units, but we've only sold 12 units in 2 months. So it's like, oh, okay, even though the velocity was really high recently, it was pretty slow across the board. It does provide a challenge if it's a half decent product, because then all of a sudden you spoke to a bunch of customers about it. The ones who bought it might like it and come back for something, but it's with your staff, it's also just important for them to know their substitutes. And so we found stores that might keep a little bit of a lower product mix, have to do a bit more on education, but generally have team members who are really good at finding substitutes, because their products might be turning over all the time. They might be getting different products in. So you came in, you got something last week, and I want to look for that same SKU today. Well, oh, we don't have that, but we have this, which is very similar.
What are your thoughts on displaying cannabis?
So displaying cannabis and like having it in sniff jars and open to smell and interact with the product, or having it just, where you put it in the store and how you have it displayed.
Just where you put it in the store.
Yeah, I think, again, that customer journey, how do you want to do your education? And that's, if that's what you're thinking and you're leading with, do you have menu boards, right? Do you want menu boards with specials and with full menus? We have some retailers that will do full menus on screens, some that will do printouts, right? And they might have a binder you go through. Others that have full glass display cases and every single product is on display. And I think all of those stores can do as good a job on education. It comes down to the bud tenders, and then also comes down to, your customers getting used to what that experience is. So like we're saying, if you're in an emerging market, it might be the first dispensary they've been into. They come in, they say, oh, okay, you actually don't have any on display, but you have screens. So, spending the time with the customer to say, okay, this is how you read our screens. This is where you can find products. Can you ask us questions? We find a mix of the two works really well. And then prioritizing the products that make up a good chunk of your sales. So in terms of visually, say you have glass display cases, you want to put products out there. Things like edibles, things where you're seeing potentially flavor, and it might be, again, a customer who's less familiar with products and wanting to do a bit of shopping. Those do really well on display, having a fridge full of drinks, having a case full of edibles, but then also prioritizing stuff like ounces. I want to show off some of my higher value products and let people know, hey, we have this great selection of those. Similarly, you don't need to do that with half gram pre-rolls or, like a single pre-rolls. You don't really need a full display of those, because the customer coming in looking for that, they're coming in for convenience and for something that's immediate. So they can, they can ask you, you can have 3 of those and they're going to pick one. But someone coming in to spend $150, $200, there's a lot more going into that purchase. So prioritizing the displays for products like ounces, but then also edibles, beverages, and then to have topicals, for example, and some of those higher education categories, they don't do a ton for sales, but prioritizing education to start can help that customer. Once that customer's learned once, they're likely going to come back for the same product. So if you started with a full display case focused on that, call it the senior customer, you might end up reducing that down over time, or perhaps you're going from all of the SKUs that you had to introducing more with CBN and other cannabinoids, and you're saying that this is where you want to use that space, and that's a focused education area just for that specific customer.
How often should inventory be changed? And what if, you have something on display and then it's just not moving?
Yeah.
How do you investigate that?
Again, I think when it comes to things that are slow movers, working with your team is the single best thing you can do. But in terms of displays, seasonal changes, but also, every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, you want it to ladder up as well to how you're receiving products. You want to showcase things that are potentially clearance or on sale. People love coming in and seeing something they can get a deal on. You want to showcase products that are new, fresh drops, right? Or have unique selling factors. So a big thing going through with retailers today is, especially in established markets, is okay, we have all of these products. How does a customer tell them apart? Are you using tags, right? Are you using a color, a sticker? Is there something there? Not just indica sativa hybrid, but again, is it a local product? Is it craft? Is it organic? What are all these unique things that customers are looking for, right? We see people do that with terpenes as well and how they merchandise it. But the one thing I would say is be really aware of your merchandising at the cash, right? What display space do you have there? What lockable, secure space do you have, both in front of you and behind you? Because regardless of the experience on your floor, for the most part, that's where everything gets finalized. That's where customers are getting their product. So if I'm at the cash and I see, add-on pre-rolls, or I see a whole bunch of new edibles with really enticing flavors, seeing these mango gummies and this spicy chocolate, or, seasonal things, you have a candy cane chocolate, things like that. Those moments at the cash is where you can take your units per transaction and your average dollar, and you can increase it by 20% or more. So to say, oh, okay, great, yeah, you came in for this 3.5, but it's, we have a pumpkin something for the fall, and someone's like, okay, sure, I'll add one of those on, right? It's $5 or it's $6. So having add-ons at the cash, and also, obviously people look at rolling papers, vape batteries, things like that, but cannabis products that complement what people are buying, and they're not going to detract from it. Never go in and buy to looking for flour and then just buy a small edible instead of it. So it's, that complementary product, right? Sometimes you have a pre-roll at the cash and you might get someone to swap it out, but just being aware of those mixes that you have.
Taylor, or what should be the thought process on training employees how to sell?
Yeah. So when we look at good, better, best, you want to go the other way. You want to go best, better, good. You have someone coming in, don't be afraid to talk about something that's a higher price product and go through to understand, because you don't know what this person is willing to spend and how they value their experience and their products, right? And they might tell you, and they will tell you if they have a budget, or again, as I was saying, they want the highest THC for the lowest price. But otherwise, someone comes in, if you came in and you asked me, oh, what's a good pre-roll? I would never start with a 1 by 1 gram or a 1 by half gram. Let's talk about a 3-pack. Let's talk about a 5-pack. Maybe let's talk about a variety pack, right? You're coming in and, what are your needs? So when we look at the right selling steps that we're going to, walk you through, the first one is understanding your needs. So you came in, you're looking for, how you're looking to consume, you're looking for a pre-roll, just for you or for tonight, for this weekend, what are you doing? Great. Even if it's just for you, let's not start with the bottom of the barrel. Right? You're like, oh, I just need something for tonight. It's like, okay, well, great. You're out for the night. Let me get you a 3-pack. And let me talk to you about this one that, maybe has a sativa, indica, and a hybrid all in it. Or, whatever that might be. And it's like, oh, this one, the 3-pack, it's $45. It's like, oh, that's a little more than I want to spend. Okay, well, we have this one too. Oh, it's not as good, or it has this. There's 3 of the same. It's going to be $30. And like, okay, that might be great. but I don't want to start there. I want to work my way down and understand what you're looking for. And then obviously, if you become a repeat customer, you're coming in, I get a sense of where you're at and what you're looking to spend. But I would never jump to the value products, unless someone's coming in for that. But you can also always find value at different price points, because one person's value is just the lowest price and the highest THC. Someone else is a price that matches, what street prices might have been in their market, and has like great quality. Or what we find is when flower goes above 30% THC, people are a lot more willing to take that budget and increase it because the potency is so high. And so if you're looking at something that's a potent flower, with a lot of terpenes, and a really great cannabinoid mix, that's something that someone might say, oh, okay, I'm willing to spend on that product.
I love that. I love anchoring on the highest price because that's the anchor that you set.
Yeah, exactly. You set that anchor and then work with it and work with it within categories. And generally, you're not going to have someone walk out, right? If someone gets sticker shock, and this is where we said you have products for people across that mix. So we're talking about pre-rolls. You probably have something that's under $10, maybe a single offering, potentially up to $100. That is like a 70 pack or whatever it might be. So where are you in between that? Find that anchor, and then you can always move it around.
Mm-hmm. Ameel, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you think it's important for people to...
I think the biggest thing when you look at inventory and your product mix, especially in the emerging market, is to not be afraid to bring in products and to cycle them through, right? Knowing that these products will change over, and finding the products that you want to keep as core SKUs. And as I was saying, understanding how does your store deal with that growth and potential future contraction. Because if I'm opening a store today and I'm planning for 200 SKUs, but 200 SKUs is the most I can stock in my store, that's going to be a problem, right? You want to, just like with your opening mix, you want to put 60% of that into that order. In that first part of your business, like your inventory on hand, likely in the inventory dollars, won't increase necessarily in the future. Maybe at the start, you're buying 2 or 3 cases of each thing, and in the future, you're buying 1 of each because your SKU count's expanded, but your inventory dollars have stayed relatively similar. But having space in your back of house to grow that inventory mix, and to also understand, okay, maybe we started by storing accessories with our cannabis, but we're going to separate it out. Or maybe there's space on the retail floor where we can store back stock of accessories, and having a sense towards that. Because again, you're not getting into this for a pop-up. You're not looking at it for what are we going to do in 3 weeks. You're looking at it, okay, what's the first month, the second, the third, the first year. And then once you get to year 2 and year 3, things are going to change. The flow of things might change, right? You're going to, if you can retain your customers or your staff, and your customers, but if you retain your staff, the way that they interact within your store is going to change because they know where things are. They know, the experience that we deliver. So just having that physical space to grow. Like I love an express focused store. I love that footprint, but there needs to be enough behind the scenes to say, okay, if demand in my market goes from 150 SKUs to 400, we have room to start bringing that in, right? If people want, and you look at edibles, we talked about brands a little bit. If these 5 brands, I need to carry 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 edibles from each one. I maybe wasn't planning on that at the start. Maybe I only had 2, but this has become a hot brand in the market and people want all the different types, maybe because they have different cannabinoids. Maybe it's just the flavor profiles. Do I have space to put that somewhere? Or is that going to really change up how my store is running? So if you can plan that in before you open the doors and have a bit of extra space, maybe not on the retail floor, but in your back of house, it helps actually set you up for success in the long run.
You mentioned that initially when you're opening up, you should only invest 60% of what you have budget for. What is the mix between traditional things that that you should stock versus SKU?
Yeah, I would say that 60%, you want it. So let's say that's 100 SKUs just for the ease of it. You want, let's say 200, because realistically, not many stores are going to open with only 100. So if you have 200 products, you want about 50 to 60 of them to be flower. You probably also want 50 to 60 of them to be pre-rolls. Then maybe you have 20 to 30 in vapes. You might have more SKUs in edibles than actual sales dollar just because of the price points typically, but maybe then you have 40 to 50 edibles. You might open with 20 drinks if those are available to you. And then that last 10% is where you're having the novelty items, but also making sure that you have stuff like topicals, like oils, like some of your concentrates as well. And we see stores, again, talking about, oh, we don't have a concentrate customer here, right? And especially if you're in an emerging market, I wouldn't rule anyone out. I would say, how come we don't have that customer, right? If we're like, oh, we don't sell hash. People who come into our store, they don't buy hash. Well, it's like, do they know that we carry hash? Do they know what we have? Maybe we have to bring in a couple more types and do some education around that. And that's more of the things that you get into in year 2 and year 3, right? The first year is really learning that customer base, seeing what you have. But if you're in an established market or you have an established store, and again, oh, I don't have a shadow customer, I don't have that. Why not? What is a reasonable way that we can make an investment to say, maybe we're only carrying one shatter product or one hash product. So we're going to go and we're going to bring in 6 or 10, right? And we're going to bring in the accessories that complement it. And then we're going to educate around that product. And you'll see that you'll cultivate a customer base for that, right? People who might not have been that customer learning about it. And then people who might let their friends know, or, for the most part, people love consuming cannabis with other people. If you were coming in that you got it from your store and now, oh, yeah, they have a selection of shatter products or of hash products. And we've seen a lot of stores in year 3, year 4, year 5 do that. Now, we talked about SKU counts expanding and contracting. That's one where I think you will expand it for the education. You might go from 2 offerings to 10 to 15 to really showcase everything there is there. And then you might wind it back down to 4 or 5 because you realize, okay, in hash, you want, a black Afghan, you want a Lebanese, you want a Moroccan, maybe you want a dry sift, but you only need a few of them. But people got to try everything. They got to learn what's out there. And then maybe seasonally, we bring in a temple ball, we bring in something else, but we've really narrowed down our mix once people got to see what the legalized hash market can look like. And I think that can play into a lot of those different and more novelty categories. So out of the gate, maybe you open with 2 of those SKUs. And then at some point down the line, you say, hey, we want to focus on that. Expand into it, have the room for that, merchandise accordingly, do the education. You'll find that customer, and then you might move on to something else. Maybe it'll be an infused pre-roll. Maybe it'll be another concentrate. Maybe it's, we've seen all these different products in different markets do really well. It could just be different cannabinoids, right? We're seeing a rise of products with unique cannabinoids and customers learning about that there's, THC and CBD. What is the THC and CBC or CBG? What do those look like? CBN. How do they play into it? And how do they play into different formats? Like, what does it look like when you have a joint infused with those? What does it look like when you have it in an edible, a drink, something?
How do you determine I'm going to drop this?
That we're going to get rid of it? I think it comes down to what the guests are saying and what the staff is saying. So, one, we want to look at sales, but is the quality not there? And I think a big thing is finding a substitute before you get rid of it. So say I have a low cost 3.5, low cost 7, but the cost is going up from the supplier. That might be a reason to drop it. Or the quality just isn't what it was before. But I might have I have a customer base who's coming in and likes that size at that price point. Well, before I drop it, I want to, again, expand my SKU count a little bit. Let's bring in 2 more options. Maybe we put it on sale. Maybe we do a bit of education about those new drops. We feature them and we get customers into those, and then we can wind something down, right? I find more often than not, it's not difficult to drop something and cut it. It just means that education. But if you can substitute it and slowly remove it, customers don't notice it, and you've just switched them onto something that you like more, And whether it's the quality, the feedback, or again, it comes down to the gross profit of that product and how you're looking at your own operations. Just having that substitute, it makes it a lot smoother. And when you have that room to play with your inventory dollars and to say, okay, I can add a little bit more before I take something away, and it's not a one for one. I think that also, because sometimes you might bring in those other ones and then you're finding customers buy that and this same one you were thinking of dropping, right? And you can take some time and letting people know as well. So less of determining that you're going to drop it, but also if a product is going away and you have loyal customers for it, you know, letting them know that it's either being discontinued or it's not going to be carried. But again, here's what we have for you. I think that goes a long way.
How do you bake in feedback when you have 400 SKUs? Like, how often should you get feedback on your inventory?
I think it happens real time and it happens all the time. You will see, especially if you're in a market where, you know, you're part of someone's routine, they'll come in and they'll have that information. They'll talk about what they just bought. People love talking about their cannabis. They love showing it off. And I think that's a great piece too, is, you know, we have customers who will want to open what they just bought and show it to the staff, right? Or vice versa, the staff just bought it and they want to show it to the customers. So I think that feedback is real time, and it comes to being an owner operator who, you know, spends some time on the floor, but also spends time talking to their team about those conversations they're having with customers.
Mm-hmm. Ameel, I want to thank you so much for joining us today and dropping so much knowledge. How can our listeners find you?
Ameel Bachir, you can find me on social media, on LinkedIn, connect with me. We love working with dispensaries in new and emerging markets, focused right now on emerging markets with Forte. You know, our main goal is helping new businesses and new dispensary owners learn from what's happened in other markets, learn from those mistakes, but also the successes, and just streamline their business. You know, we know at the end of the day, your main goal is optimizing your operations and your gross profit and how you can make this a sustainable business. But then also, how can you hit the different things that brought you into this industry, the ways you want to, you know, change things, how you want to change the stigma, how you want to educate customers, and how you want them to find the right products. So love talking to people about cannabis retail, and reach out to me and we can talk more.
Awesome. Thanks so much for joining today, Ameel.
It's my pleasure.
I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you did, please hit the like button and please subscribe to our pod wherever you're listening, Spotify, Apple, etc. It really helps the channel out. Until next time, take care.
Thanks for listening to the KayaCast podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcast app, or visit our website to learn more about our guests and to access the full archive of episodes from the show. Join us next time as we continue to explore the world of cannabis and help you grow, launch, and scale your business.